Welcome everyone to my review of the Formula 1 2019 Italian Grand Prix. Another really good race today. That's now, 7 in a row? I think ever since France, which, let's be fair, was a little bit dull. Every single race I've given an 8, a 9 or even a 10 out of 10. This one continues the trend. A really brilliant Grand Prix today at Monza. The home of the Tifosi, the home of Ferrari. As always, spoilers ahead, just a little warning there for you. We are going to be talking about the entire Grand Prix. Some of you also might know I did the race reaction stream a little bit earlier on with the F1 word, so you've probably heard some of my thoughts from the Grand Prix, but this is a little bit more rounded, talking about most of the teams on the grid, and I think today I'm going to do it going through each driver at a time. So we talk about every single one. So whoever your favourite is, hopefully we should cover them. If you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. But first, let's take a look at the race result. It was Charles Leclerc claiming his second ever Formula 1 victory, a real emotional one. I think, just like last time out in Spa, for very different reasons, I think this one meant a lot. And you could hear in his voice on the team radio, a stunning result, a stunning drive from Leclerc. Not perfect, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but a real emotional day for the Monegasque driver. Valtteri Bottas actually managed to work his way into P2 ahead of teammate Lewis Hamilton, who managed to get the fastest lap in P3. Different strategies the two Mercedes boys were on, and it was Bottas who, in the end, tried to take the fight to Leclerc, but didn't quite have enough oomph, enough gusto, if you want to say that, and to really bring the fight to the Ferrari man. Renault, brilliant day for them. P4 and P5, their best result in a very, very long time. Both of them, I think, will be very happy with that indeed. Alex Albon, P6 Red Bull. I don't quite know how we feel about that. Perez, a brilliant recovery drive, and for Verstappen, Giovinazzi P9, and Lando Norris claiming the final point, a really good recovery drive from him as well. Taking a look at the bottom half of the grid, Gasly P11, he got in a little bit of the wars with the man in P12 and the man in P13, Stroll and Vettel. We're going to talk about that on lap 9. That giant kerfuffle, calamitous mistake from Sebastian Vettel, we can't avoid that one. George Russell, P14, another strong race from Russell in the Williams car, but it's got to be said, almost every other driver behind him had some kind of issue. Kimi Raikkonen had a penalty, Grosjean had a bit of a spin, Robert Kubica, another quiet weekend from him, and your 3 DNFs from the Grand Prix, Kevin Magnussen with a hydraulic issue, Danny Kvyat with what seemed to be a big engine blowout, caused a virtual safety car, and the other virtual safety car caused by Carlos Sainz, McLaren not getting the stop right, tyre loose, race over. Sainz, another really strong race, and result he was on for, but ultimately comes away with 0 points, and on a day where Renault got 4th and 5th, McLaren will be watching their backs just a little bit. Right then, let's just calm down a little bit. We're going to go through the order. I quite liked what we did last time when we started at the bottom and went through the race. Went through the grid, sorry. So we'll start with Carlos Sainz, end with Charles Leclerc. Sainz, we just sort of mentioned it there, to be honest with you, was driving a really strong race in P7, behind the 2 Renaults, but in front of the rest of the midfield. Nothing he could have really done. Should have been a big points haul for McLaren today, just wasn't to be. The man who inherited then P7 was Danny Kvyat. Similar story to Sainz, really. Had almost benefited from other drivers making mistakes, getting penalties, was looking like he was going to score points, engine failure. What can you do? Kevin Magnussen, I think a little bit more of an interesting one, got involved with a bit of a ding-dong with Alex Albon. Albon eventually got a penalty for cutting the chicane, didn't give the place back because then Kvyat got past in front of Magnussen, so Albon got a penalty for that, which we'll talk about penalties in a moment because I actually think they were pretty spot on today. Not 100%, but they were pretty close to perfect. Magnussen, bit of a decent scrap with Sergio Perez, I think it's fair enough to say those two. It's always fun to see those two on track. But K-Mag did make a mistake. Into turn 1, locked up, ruined his tyres, had to do an extra stop. Hydraulic issue, though, eventually taking him out of the race. And I think for K-Mag, would have been nice to see him pick up points today, or for Grosjean. But Grosjean as well, we might as well talk about him now, because Kubica, to be honest with you, a real quiet weekend once again from the pole. Grosjean, another mistake from him at a time he really doesn't need it. Out of Ascari, did a bit of a pirouette, a 360 spin. You know, okay. He was sort of on the edge of points, but a driver who really needs a big result, making a mistake like that, flat spot on his tyres, had to do an extra stop, race over, pretty much. Another man, I feel really sorry for Kimi Raikkonen today. This penalty I thought was very strange. Started the race on the wrong set of tyres, ended up getting a drive-through 10-second, well, a stop-go penalty. A 10-second stop-go penalty. Very bizarre. Just because he didn't start on the right tyres, started from the pit lane anyway, I thought that was a little bit harsh, to be honest with you. So, for Kimi, who made the mistake yesterday in quali, pretty much just spent the rest of the race at the back of the field. Felt a little bit sorry for him. George Russell, we mentioned it briefly there, probably had quite a bit of fun practicing for maybe a few years down the line, fighting with Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. We'll talk about Vettel in a moment, but what an insult to injury. After Vettel's mistake and the calamitous events that went on there, when Vettel was getting lapped, he was fighting George Russell, struggling to get past the Williams, and he was being lapped by the leaders. I thought, oh, come on, give the guy a break. But Russell, strong day. Started P14, ended P14, I think, in a Williams. He'll be pretty happy with that. Sebastian Vettel, we're going to have to talk about it. What was he doing? First of all, P4, another mistake. At Ascari, this corner you can see on screen here, right where the Red Bull is, in the background, just lost it. Lost the rear end. Didn't go into the wall, but spun the car. And then saw a few cars go by, then just rejoined the circuit. I mean, okay, really hard for him to see, but he should know better. That's a flat-out corner. He's got to be on the radio to someone, or at least try and come on in a slower manner. It's difficult, I understand, because, okay, he probably could have seen a little bit, but with the halo, you can see there on screen, Charles Leclerc's helmet, trying to cock your head to the left, it's going to be difficult in that kind of situation. But from a four-time world champion, personally, I expect better. Hit Stroll, even worse, and that's why he got a more severe penalty, hitting Stroll, whereas Stroll, straight away, he was off the circuit, then rejoined awkwardly himself, hit Gasly into the gravel. That almost destroyed Gasly, Stroll and Vettel's race all at the same time. Stroll only got a drive-through. Vettel got a 10-second stop-go only because of the contact, is what Michael Massey said on Sky TV after the race. Lando Norris, pretty quiet day from him. A point in the McLaren. I think he'll be happy with that after a few weekends without points and where the cars let him down. I think 1 point, it is fine. Giovinazzi, first points from an Italian driver at Monza since Giancarlo Fisichella and Jarno Trulli in 2006. Blimey. I think Gio actually is really improving at the moment. And okay, lost the car at the end of the race in Spa, but it seems to me, whereas at the beginning of the year he was at the back of the field, at least now he's getting involved in that midfield. Picking up points today is exactly what he needs to be doing. His second ever proper points finish in Formula 1. Yeah, good race from Gio today in my book. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, well, both of them really had pretty quiet races. Perez ultimately ending up P7, starting from P18, I believe. Really good job from him. Verstappen, considering he damaged his front wing on the first lap, getting all the way up to 8th. Again, I think that's probably the best he could do. Alex Albon, P6. How do we feel about that? Because behind the two Renaults, probably at the start you would have expected him to get in front of the two Renaults. But I believe on lap 3 or 4, had a bit of a ding-dong battle with Carlos Sainz. Sainz ended up just tapping him a little bit onto the gravel. That was a little bit on the edge, but I didn't mind it. I felt no penalties was probably the right way to go. We also saw Albon get that 5-second penalty that he just used at his pit stop with Kevin Magnussen that we spoke a little bit about a minute ago. I think that was a fair enough penalty, but what I think was clear today is that Albon was willing to race, and that's something that we said all season long with Gasly. He just didn't quite have that racing edge, that little bit of flair that Red Bull like to see in their drivers, that Daniel Ricciardo definitely had. So I think Albon, although P6 is okay, I think overall that's another pretty positive result in helping him keep that seat for next season. P5, Nico Hülkenberg, to be honest with you, we might as well talk about both Renaults. Ricciardo and Hülkenberg, there was a bit of a gap there. I think it was 12 seconds at the end between the two, but Ricciardo was helped with a virtual safety car. That's when he came into pit, so that played into his hands nicely. Hülkenberg, I think the most interesting thing he did was on the opening lap, getting in front of not only his teammate, but also Sebastian Vettel. That was brilliant to see. I was there, go on, I'll just, go on, Nico. Considering that Renault have let him go for next year, I really want him just to try this season. I'm sure he will try. What am I on about? But I really want it to somehow get a podium. That really would be brilliant because the journey he's had with Renault has been so incredible. The way when he joined them, they were right at the back of the field. He's really helped them progress. And I think looking at his career, I still don't know how he hasn't got a podium. I think we'll all agree with that. Some say he's overrated, but I really like Hulkenberg. And I think today, Monza typically hasn't been a circuit he's done particularly well at. Ricciardo this weekend has been the better of the two, and Danny Rick in P4. What a result that is. What a result. His best result since Monaco last year, I believe. So really good job from Ricciardo today. I think both of them very happy indeed. Both of them climbing the driver's standings as well and are only 18 points away from McLaren. If you'd have told me that a few races ago, I would have not believed you. So, and Renault as well. I think they'd have bit your hand off if you told them that. So, almost now within a chance of getting best of the rest. Ricciardo and Hulkenberg also within a chance of getting best of the rest in the driver's standings. So, yeah, brilliant day all round from Renault. Top three. I mean, it was a brilliant race. All race long, it was Hamilton, Leclerc. The game of chess, really. Vettel, after his mistake, almost just, it seemed to, destroy Ferrari's strategic freedom, if you will, because Mercedes were able to do the complete split strategy, really put Leclerc under pressure. And at first, it was Hamilton. Hamilton, 5-time world champ, let's be honest, soon to be 6-time world champ, hounded him down. And in front of the Tifosi, in only his second season of Formula 1, with Hamilton behind you at Monza, the pressure on Leclerc was so much. Better straight line speed really helped him out today. That's something that Raikkonen didn't quite have on his side last year, because it really reminded me of last year, because it was Raikkonen in front with Hamilton behind. This time it was Leclerc in front with Hamilton behind. But Leclerc doing a really good job, makes a mistake into turn one. Hamilton right behind him. Leclerc squeezes him onto the grass, gets a black and white flag. And personally, I don't want to talk about it too much, because I think probably if I do a longer video explaining this, I think it'll be the better way to go. But I said earlier, really happy with the penalty system this weekend, but I really love the black and white flag. I think it's something we've been missing in Formula 1 for so long. In layman's terms, it's basically a yellow card. It's a bit of a warning system. It's been in the Formula 1 games for, well, ever since 2009 when they started making them with Codemasters. But I really think that helped the racing today. Allowed us to be right on the edge. On that, almost on that dotted line of, is that alright, is that not? You give him a warning. If you do it again, that's too much. He sort of did do it again. Through Curva Grande again, Hamilton had another chance. Got right in Leclerc's slipstream, went to the left. Leclerc went to the left, a little bit on the edge. For me, that was hard racing. I didn't have too much of an issue with it. But I'm sure there's some of you out there which feel he should have got a penalty and that it was unjust. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But Leclerc held on. It was Bottas who ended up P2. On the different strategy, went a little bit longer than Hamilton and Leclerc. Hamilton and Bottas were both on the mediums, Leclerc on the hard tyres. So as Hamilton's dropped away, Leclerc was still fine. Then Bottas came into play. Hamilton made a very rare mistake from him. Bottas overtakes him, gets P2. Bottas then has the fresher medium tyres, but makes a couple of mistakes late on. Couldn't use that fresher tyres as an advantage. And then ultimately Leclerc's hard tyres, probably at the end of the race, were in better nick than Bottas's tyres. But that was pretty much a roundup of most of the things that have happened in the Grand Prix. I think it was a really good one. I really do. And it's continuing a trend now, which earlier on in the year, most of us were thinking it's been quite a dull season. But really now, as we end the European leg today, it's been a real cracker, I would say. Anyway, let's talk driver of the day, surprise of the day, team of the day, and overtake of the day. I really like this bit, actually. One of the more fun parts of the weekend. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Driver of the day, I actually found it a little bit difficult today because I think most drivers out there made some sort of mistake. I think Ricciardo and Perez are the two to me. Maybe you could throw in Giovinazzi and Russell as well. Maybe Bottas, not Bottas, considering how he ended the race. But I think Ricciardo and Perez, considering they're in a midfield scrap, Ricciardo, faultless all weekend. Driver of the weekend for sure. Perez, considering how far back he started, I said in my, well, even yesterday, in the quali report, keep an eye on him because it's these kind of races where he starts at the back but keeps his nose clean, gets the job done, exactly what he did today. P7, really good job for Racing Point, who actually have really struggled to score points so far this year. So I think Sergio, very good job from him. Ricciardo, just mentioned, driver of the weekend for me, but Leclerc, wow. What a Grand Prix. Okay, made a couple of mistakes, was really on the edge, but I've said it a few times already. The pressure My God, just seeing the sea of Ferrari fans while he was up there on the podium just really puts it into perspective how many people were hoping and pleading this man to get the victory, with Hamilton behind him and Bottas without the cover of Vettel. Really mature driver, coming of age driver. And I think it's one of those where in a few years down the line we'll still remember this race today as the race where Leclerc really put himself on the map. Team of the day, I think it's fair enough to say Renault. Really big step forward today. I expect them to go backwards next time in Singapore. More of a twisty circuit that relies on chassis rather than engine. But Renault, I cannot deny their performance this weekend. Overtake of the day, I've gone with Leclerc and Hülkenberg through the Parabolica. You very rarely see that. I know Leclerc had a big advantage, but also Albon on Sainz initially was really good. And surprise of the day, I've had to go with Sebastian Vettel. No way is any other one, any other point of that Grand Prix a surprise except what Sebastian Vettel did. I tried to keep that bit as nice and as happy and joyful. That sounded dreadful. But you know what I mean. As positive as I can, but Sebastian Vettel today, I don't know where that came from. A race to forget for Sebastian in front of the Tifosi as well. Yeah. Anyway, race rating. We'll move on to that a little bit more bright. I've gone with an 8 out of 10, but it's almost a reluctant 8 out of 10. I'm starting to think, as more and more of these Grand Prix are actually being quite good, 8 seems a little bit too low if you compare this to last time out in Spa, Silverstone. I gave those two races 8s. I feel this is better than an 8, but I feel a 9's a little bit too much. It's right on the edge for me. I've gone with an 8. Maybe if there was a full-on safety car period instead of virtual safety car, we saw the field close in a little bit. Maybe if we saw Bottas do a real challenge at the end, maybe I could have gone with a 9. So it's a conservative 8, pushing a 9. Hopefully you understand what I mean. But once again, Monza, the last 3 or 4 years, I'm so glad this is staying on the calendar. Always provides drama, always provides brilliant racing. Okay, yesterday in quali, a bit of a farce, but overall, brilliant weekend, definitely on the bucket list. Before we go, important to look at the championship because, okay, Hamilton's pretty much got this in the bag. Never say never, but it's a big gap. Over 60 points now, 63, quite a big margin. Quite a lot's going to have to go up in flames for Lewis to really come under pressure now. I think the more interesting one is Max Verstappen. No points last time out in Spa, only 4 today, finishing P8. Leclerc, 2 victories on the bounce, now 3 points behind Max. Leclerc, a real resurgent second half. That being said though, let's not add in recency bias, because Verstappen, stellar first half of the year. Okay, last time out, made a mistake lap 1. I don't want to say made a mistake today. I think he just got caught out a little bit. Good race today from Verstappen. I think next time out in Singapore, races like Mexico, Japan, Brazil, for sure, Red Bull are going to be right there. So I wouldn't count out Verstappen just yet, but Leclerc and Verstappen still aren't a million miles away from Bottas. Sebastian Vettel probably is going to have to keep an eye on his teammate, losing out a little bit. The midfield, though, big results for Ricciardo, 34 points for him. Go back 3 spaces and only 3 points to Hülkenberg and Raikkonen. It really is crazy down there. Perez moves forward into P13 with 27 points. Norris slips down to P14. He's on 25 though. And a really good result next time out, let's say a 4th place. He's right back into 8th. That midfield is super, super close. We've said a million times, if Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes weren't in it, what a championship fight this would be. The Constructors' Championship, there are some changes this week. Usually at the moment, we're going without changes. But Renault have jumped up forward ahead of Toro Rosso. Renault now on 25 points, just 18 behind McLaren. Again, you look at the gap between the top 3 teams and then how close the rest of the field is, except Williams. Sorry, Williams fans. I always feel harsh talking about Williams, but they're on 1 point. That's okay. But Renault, a real statement of intent this weekend, but almost the opposite of what I just said about Red Bull. Renault's strengths, which still surprises me and baffles me, their strength seems to be straight lines. Yeah, I know. If you told me this even last year, I wouldn't have believed you, but it seems to be straight lines. Renault are quick. More technical, twisty circuits, like Brazil, Japan, Singapore up next, I don't know. And maybe McLaren, who've had a bit of bad luck recently, they can eke out that gap a little more. But Alfa as well, they've also had a bit of bad luck, so don't count them out either. Okay, A little bit longer review today, but I think we had lots to talk about. And also I just wanted to see how I feel doing a longer review and how you feel as well. Maybe it's a little bit too long. I used to do videos about 20 minutes. Some people said too long. Some people now say I rush through it too quickly. So I thought I'd revert to the old system today. I've really enjoyed it. Really brilliant race. Leclerc, I can't deny it was brilliant seeing him up there. Just the amount of passion those Ferrari fans have, it's incredible to see. But to see a man in his second season of Formula 1 with the pressure on his shoulders and to see him deliver, surely a world champion in the making. There's a hot take to leave you on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. It's 2 weeks until the next race, so keep your eye out for some different content over the next couple of weeks, but we've got some fun stuff in the pipelines that hopefully you will enjoy. As always, if you're new around here, if you've made it this far and you've not subscribed, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, if you do subscribe, welcome to the team. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one.